to the entertaining Talkin' Sports.
What is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video. And in this video, we are going to talk about the much talked about prospect, Mekhi Becton. Now, he was not really talked about for the New York Giants until about 4 days ago, maybe 5 days ago, when Daniel Jeremiah had the New York Giants taking him 4th overall in the mocks. Now, one thing I will say, in recent mocks, even outside of Jeremiah's, he's not going to the Giants from what I've seen, but he's certainly moved up the mocks. Most people have him around the 4th or 5th offensive tackle prospect in this year's draft. And obviously, the New York Giants' biggest needs is probably offensive tackle. Some may argue pass rush or whatever it is. Regardless, it's in the top 2 or 3 biggest needs for the New York Giants. However you view that, we definitely need a tackle. You know, our offensive line is not young. As of right now, we only have one tackle. That's Nate Solder on the left side. Remmers, most people expect him not to be back. And we definitely need to get youth on that offensive line, which is why a lot of people want Andrew Thomas, Wirfs, whoever your guy is. But I wanted to go over this guy because he was kind of a guy we didn't know a lot about up until this week once Daniel Jeremiah said that. And then all of a sudden you saw all these tweets on Twitter about the Giants potentially looking into Becton. He's a junior out of Louisville, and he is gigantic. And when you look at the highlight film, which I suggest everybody to look at if you have not seen this kid yet, Mekhi Becton, just type it in, the same name in the title, type it in after this video. He is a mountain of a man, and he throws people around like a rag doll at 6'7", 369 pounds. And coming out of high school, he was regarded as a very good player. He was a 4-star recruit. I think he was ranked number 34th in the country at the tackle position. And he drew interest from several big schools, including Michigan, and a number of other schools. He ended up choosing Louisville, where he played, I think, about half the season as a starter his freshman year. But he was actually graded, from what I read, as the top-graded freshman tackle by PFF in his rookie year. Take that for what you will. 2018, he started the entirety of the year. And then 2019, he actually had a great year. Again, started, I think, every game for Louisville. And he won the best offensive lineman in the conference. I'm not sure if it was lineman specific or tackle, but regardless, he won a prestigious award in the ACC conference for Louisville. And he's a guy, when you watch him on film, he's just imposing. A guy that big. Now, one of the things that a lot of people have pointed to in terms of weaknesses and things he needs to work on, and I'll get into some of the quotes, is his weight. His weight fluctuates a lot. He actually dropped a lot of weight. I think he got, coming out of high school, he was like 330, 335. He got as high as like 375. And then going into this season, he dropped to 350. But now, from what I'm reading, he's back to 369. So he's kind of all over the place. But he's known to have good technique, and he is just a mauler. Now, the one thing you got to worry about as he hits that next level, you're going up against bigger guys. So technique is going to come more into play. Yes, he's still going to be huge, much like our new offensive line coach was. But that's only going to get you so far. He's going to have good technique and everything else. He's definitely strong enough and big enough to get it done. The question is, do the New York Giants view this guy as a worthy guy at number 4? I personally doubt that they will. I think, most experts have him going late second round, early second round, I should say, late first round. And if he falls to where the Giants are picking in the second round, that's definitely a guy the New York Giants should consider, or maybe trade up to the back end of the first. The other thing they could do, everyone talks about it, is trade out of that 4th pick. Maybe you drop to 12, and maybe you view Becton as a guy there. But one thing I'll say, don't be shocked if the Giants do anything. Daniel Jones going up into the draft last year, by many people, was thought to be a second-round prospect the day of the draft. And it was obviously a shock that the Giants took him at 6. So if Dave Gettleman loves this guy, which Daniel Jeremiah projects that he will, he's capable of doing anything. And being that offensive tackle is such a glaring need, I wouldn't rule it out. I'm not saying that I expect it, but I wouldn't rule it out. So he's certainly a guy worth doing some homework on. So I wanted to pull up some of the quotes and some of the things that the experts and teammates and coaches had to say about Becton and what he could bring to the Giants if indeed we did take him at 4 or later in the draft. First thing I wanted to pull up was what Daniel Jeremiah had to say about the prospect. Dave Gettleman loves big, physical football players, and they don't get any bigger than Becton, listed at 6'7", 369 pounds. He is a mauler in the run game, and he's shockingly nimble in pass protection. And I will say, when you watch him throw these guys to the ground, you're going to be impressed if you haven't seen it. It is mind-blowing at how big and how strong this guy is. We're talking about throwing defensive ends 6 yards back, like they're babies. He's definitely physically imposing, and it is impressive to see. This was a quote from his head coach, and like I said, Becton won the award for Best ACC Offensive Lineman, and this is what he had to say about him. I'm really proud about Mekhi and extremely happy for him because of all the hard work he put into this season, U of L coach Scott Satterfield said. Mekhi has had a tremendous year and deserves this outstanding recognition as one of the top blockers in the ACC. He has been a leader for our offensive line and our offense as a whole, and to be recognized for his accomplishments by members of this league is a great honor for Mekhi. And yeah, so he's basically just, reiterating what I said, that he worked really hard in the offseason. He cut down the weight, worked on his technique, and he took off and was graded the best offensive lineman in the ACC. This came from his running back on his team, Javion Hawkins, who was actually talking before the bowl game. Obviously, Becton sat out because he declared for the NFL draft, didn't want to risk injury. The Cardinals are preparing for the bowl practice, and running back Javion Hawkins, who has 1,420 yards rushing, was asked last week about Becton. Mekhi is different, Hawkins said of his teammate, a freak athlete. That's just the way he is. And I read several other quotes coming from Hawkins that credited, his 1,400 yards rushing, due in large part to Becton and his blocking ability in terms of a run blocker. And I pulled up a couple things for you guys. I got these notes off of thedraftnetwork.com. There's a lot of draft analysts that give you pros and cons on the prospects, and this is what one guy had to say in terms of some of the good things about Becton. Pass sets, he's smooth. Appreciate how clean his feet are. Rare ability to reach his back foot on drive catch and shows really nice cadence to not overset versus speed off the edge. Shows good awareness of angles to keep his passer secure prior to contact. His length, obviously this guy's going to be long. All the reach in the world. His punch and extension will uproot defenders and physically uproot them a few yards at a time. Pretty awesome to watch him throw hands, create space instantly with his upper body power. Plenty of length to extend and run rushers past the quarterback. And then finally he talked about his balance. I appreciate how he doesn't fold at the waist to chase in space. He's a bit high-hipped, but his dynamic lower half does well to reach and catch his momentum to prevent him from drifting. Shows good angular adjustments on the move. And then this is a bit long. I'll try to shorten it a little bit, but this was another pro from one of the experts on the website. Devastating power, and it wasn't often a fair fight in college. Has the raw power needed to uproot defensive linemen and blast them out of their run fit. Delivers overwhelming blows that stun pads, which he combines with leg drive to widen gaps a tractor trailer could get through sideways. Surprising ability to work his upper and lower body in concert to maximize his power while rolling his hips through contact. Has ridiculous reach, which gives him more margin for error with some of his strike placement inconsistency. So there's something that they're saying he's got to work on, his strike placement. Has more foot speed and lateral mobility than expected for his size. Also has more body control and balance than ever expected for a man of his size. Fairly consistent and efficient reaching his set points in pass protection. So there you go. There's a lot of the pros of a Becton, and what basically what they both have to say is his reach is ridiculous. He's strong and he actually has surprising. He's nimble for a big man and has pretty good technique, but needs to work on his striking placement. That's one of the knocks they had to say. And this was another con, and this goes back to the thing I was talking about with the weight. That was their biggest con about him in terms of his weight fluctuation. He's massive and has had past struggles with weight. Needs to be careful and stay in control of that. Strike placement can be on the erratic side. Technique will become way more important at the NFL level, where he won't simply be able to bully dudes. But I am encouraged by what he has displayed on tape in 2019. And he's absolutely right. I mean, when you get to the next level, people say it all the time, the game gets bigger and it gets faster. And it will get bigger and faster for Becton. You can only be so big. When you're in the NFL, you're facing the biggest guys. And yeah, he's still going to be probably the biggest guy on the field at his height and weight, but he's going to be going up against guys that, he wouldn't have been seeing at the collegiate level. So that his physical strength and everything else will only go so far once you get to the NFL. So his weaknesses in terms of his technique, in terms of, whatever they had to say about him, what people view as some of the things he needs to work on will have to be improved if he's probably worthy of the number 4 overall selection. But You look at this guy's tape, and I will say I definitely see what people see in this guy in terms of an impressive potential prospect and would be an exciting guy to watch in a New York Giants uniform. Do I want them to take him at 4? At this point, probably not, based on some of the things I've read, but we'll have to wait and see how he does, in terms of the combine and everything else. But he's certainly a name to keep an eye on at the combine and to see how he moves up draft charts, or if he moves down draft charts, if he could be a potential target for the New York Giants in the second round, if, say, they draft an Isaiah Simmons. But yeah, man, the tape does not lie, and he is definitely probably the strongest offensive tackle in this year's class, and definitely the most imposing. Probably not the most accomplished or the best technically skilled offensive tackle, but definitely a guy that's worth watching and to keep an eye on. And I was impressed with what I saw. As always, guys, if you liked what you watched, please subscribe, drop a comment, maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.